Welcome to Sweet Cherry Novel, where we share heartwarming, romantic love stories just for you. My seatmate was known as a cold, handsome heartthrob, but rumors said he was a fierce fighter who never looked at anyone seriously. I was always careful around him, afraid I might accidentally anger him. However, one day after school, I returned to campus. The classroom, which should have been empty, was filled with unruly students. My cold seatmate sat right in the middle, looking incredibly smug. What is there to show off? He is not even as good looking as me, Unajin. I stood at the door, not daring to speak up and interrupt his boasting, because I am Unajin. Early in the morning, I arrived at class very early to eat breakfast before my seatmate arrived. Otherwise, once he got there, I would not even dare to speak loudly, let alone eat. My seatmate was named Caleb Liu. He studied well, had a good family background, and possessed a face so handsome it angered both humans and gods. However, he was famous for being cold. In the 2 years we had sat together, he had never looked at me with a normal gaze even once. He was truly terrifying. Whenever someone asked me to pass a love letter to him, he would stop writing, look at me with cold eyes, and tap his fingers on the desk as if warning me. You dare to accept it and see what happens. Furthermore, he seemed to have obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. His desk was always tidier than a girl's like mine. He gave me the feeling of a god in the sky, not belonging to the same world as us mortals, looking down on everyone. In short, I did not even dare to talk to him much. While Caleb Liu had not arrived yet, I had to quickly eat my egg. Just as I finished peeling the egg and took a bite, someone gently kicked my chair. A familiar but cold voice rang out from above my head, "Move your chair." Instinctively, I looked up with half an egg still in my mouth. Caleb stood beside me, hands in his pockets, his face expressionless. He sat on the inside, and I sat on the outside. He was waiting for me to make way for him. Panicked, I jumped up and hurriedly made room. I did not dare make him wait long, but because I had not swallowed the egg yet, I choked. I uncomfortably punched my chest once, but Caleb showed no expression. He simply raised his hand calmly, opened the lid of his thermos, and held it out in front of me. Without thinking, I subconsciously took it and drank a sip to wash the egg down because I was truly afraid of choking to death and ending up on the news. Beside my ear, Caleb's disdainful voice rang out. "You can really choke on anything, can't you?" It was over. I was despised. I carefully looked at him and explained in a whisper. "I was afraid you would have to wait long, so I ate a bit hurriedly." Caleb frowned slightly. Suddenly, I realized I had just drunk water from his bottle. I was dead. Why did I drink someone else's water? I bit my lip, not knowing how to apologize. Seeing Caleb still waiting, I hurriedly stepped aside to let him take his seat. He said nothing, just walked in and sat down. I stood beside him, carefully wiping the thermos over and over again. "You despise me." Caleb suddenly spoke, making me jump. "No, I do not. I just wanted to clean it for you." I waved my hands frantically. "I really do not despise you." Caleb said nothing, just silently looked at me. Sure enough, my seatmate was still as cold as always. I hugged the thermos, momentarily not knowing what to do. Finally, I gritted my teeth and handed it to him. "Student Liu, do you still want this?" I did not know if I was mistaken, but his gaze lingered on the mouth of the bottle for a few seconds. He looked down, his eyes darkening. A long time later, he lowered his voice. "No need." After speaking, he did not look at me anymore, but bowed his head to flip through the thick physics book on the table. I looked at the cover. He is truly amazing. He is already studying university-level physics, while I cannot even understand high school physics. "Student Liu, I am really sorry about today. Do not worry. I will buy a new bottle to compensate you." Caleb did not look up, just coldly spat out 2 words. "No need." I stood there dumbfounded, regretting endlessly. It was over. I had definitely offended the school boss. Rumor has it he is a very good fighter. Last semester, a group of thugs blocked him, and the result was that he fought back alone in an alley and beat them until they could not get up. I was so scared. For the entire next week, I lived in anxiety. The new thermos I bought, I did not even dare to give him. However, it seemed Caleb did not take that matter to heart. His attitude towards me was the same as usual, not speaking much and not paying attention. I peacefully passed a week without incident. On the weekend, my phone lit up with a message from my best friend Lana. "Una, save my life. Are you free? Help me draw the school propaganda board. I have a fever. Please." I held the phone and thought for a moment. It seems my drawing is not bad, so I immediately messaged back. "Okay, just rest assured and recover. Let me handle it." Today the weather was beautiful. The sun was not too harsh, and the wind blew through the leaves, making a very pleasant rustling sound. I carried my bag, intending to go to class to sketch first. Today was Saturday, so there would definitely be no one in the classroom. I could quietly draw alone. However, as soon as I reached the classroom door, I froze. The classroom was packed with rebellious students, people even the teachers could not manage. They were chatting and discussing which female celebrity was the most beautiful. I knew these people were all children of wealthy families. Parties in their homes naturally offered chances to meet celebrities. And right in the center of that group sat my cold seatmate. His face was full of smugness. What is there to show off? He is not even as good looking as my Una. I stood frozen outside the door, not daring to interrupt his boasting because I am Una. A male student curiously asked, "Brother Caleb, Una is your seatmate, right?" Caleb leisurely crossed his legs, holding an unlit cigarette in his hand, his expression incredibly arrogant. "Correct." My seatmate was very obedient. At that moment I had the illusion that he and the cold person I knew every day were completely different. If not for that face, I would have thought I was looking at the wrong person. Suddenly, another male student glanced out the classroom door, smirked wickedly, and raised his lazy voice. "Brother Caleb, did you say Una is the girl who often ties her hair in a small bun and carries a creamy white bag?" Caleb looked even more smug and a bit proud. "That is right. She looks very obedient." After speaking as if remembering something, he raised his leg and kicked the other guy. "How do you know?" "I warn you, you better not have any strange thoughts." The other student laughed, dodged to the side, and pointed at the classroom door where I was standing. "Brother Caleb, how would I dare to have any intentions toward my sister-in-law? But hey, just now I saw Una with my own eyes." Caleb indifferently replied. "What? Could she be standing right outside the door?" The male student smiled even more wickedly. "Who knows?" Caleb suddenly froze. He extinguished the cigarette, took his legs off the desk, and slowly turned his head. His eyes met mine directly. 1 second. 2 seconds. The whole class was silent. No one said a word. This situation was too awkward. Should I say something to ease the atmosphere? I tightened my grip on my bag strap and crept up to speak. "Hello, Student Lou." Caleb was startled, then he muttered something very small. I listened intently and realized he was saying it was over. Dead. My life is finished. I stood frozen outside the door, not daring to move. However, just a second later Caleb immediately restored his cold expression, stood up and left the classroom. But I clearly saw the tips of his ears turn red. As he passed the male student from earlier, he swung his leg and kicked him, gritting his teeth. "Your mouth is truly destructive. I was harmed miserably by you." The male student held his butt and cried out with an innocent face. "Brother Caleb, I just wanted to help you. You have been pretending to be cold for 2 years already." But Caleb did not answer. He did not even dare to look at me once. He, a famous boss in the school, was hurriedly running away like a loser. By evening, when I had finished drawing the propaganda board and returned home to lie on my bed, I slowly realized a shocking truth. My seatmate is actually not cold at all. He is just pretending and has been pretending for 2 years. Why? I rolled back and forth on the bed, unable to figure it out. Could it be that he really likes me? Impossible. I quickly denied it to myself. He and I are not from the same world. However, I suddenly remembered that the people in class today were all rebellious students. Even teachers could not manage them. Yet, they seemed to respect and obey Caleb. I stood up and leaned against the balcony railing, letting the night breeze blow through my hair. I looked up at the night sky. The stars were strangely abundant tonight. Unconsciously, I recalled the first time I met Caleb. That was the opening day of 10th grade. The first day of high school, moving from middle school to high school, was a completely new beginning. Everyone was excited about everything. I tied my hair in a high bun, wore clean white shoes, and clipped a strawberry-shaped hairpin. However, on my first day I encountered a small incident. That day, I walked into class 3 and stopped at a seat near the window. I chose to sit on the outside. After arranging my things, I also handily wiped the desk on the inside clean. That was the seat I reserved for Lana. She was also in class 3, but just as I finished wiping, a large shadow fell over me. I looked up. In front of me was a chubby male student sweating profusely. Before I could say that this seat was taken, he threw his backpack onto the inner desk. I frowned slightly and politely explained. But he did not even listen and aggressively told me to move, saying he wanted to sit here. He was tall and covered in sweat. I hesitated for a long time without being able to say a word. My face burned hot. I was both afraid he would slap me to the ground and unwilling to let him become my seatmate. So, even though my legs were trembling, I stood straight and did not budge an inch. He frowned and asked me why I did not give up the seat. I whispered, "Student, you will not fit in the seat." Seeing his expression getting more and more annoyed, I immediately regretted it. Dead, I must have hurt his self-esteem. In my head, there was only one thought. Please, God, let someone come save me. Anyone will do. And then Caleb appeared. While I and the other male student were in a standoff, he walked in coldly, wearing a face so handsome it would make both humans and gods angry. I only saw him hook his finger. With a thud, the chubby boy's backpack was immediately thrown to the ground. A deep voice rang out, "The inner seat is mine. Get away." The entire class immediately paid attention to this spot. At that time, I vaguely realized that he seemed very famous. I thought the chubby student would argue with Caleb, but surprisingly, Caleb did not take him seriously at all. He just glanced indifferently with emotionless eyes. "What? Do you have an opinion?" The other student fell silent, not daring to make a sound, and quietly left. Caleb's gaze stopped on me. I dazedly stepped aside and watched him calmly sit down. I did not dare to breathe loudly because his aura was too terrifying. He is 185 meters tall, wearing a simple white t-shirt, but carrying an arrogant and reckless air. He was even scarier than the male student just now. "Ona, do not be afraid. This will be your seatmate from now on. It is okay. He cannot punch you to death." I hesitated for a long time, and finally summoned the courage to reach out my hand and greet him softly. "Hello student, my name is Yuna." Yuna implies the one and only. Caleb did not look up, only took out a thick physics book. Just when I thought he would not answer, a cold voice rang out. Caleb." I secretly wiped my sweat. "Help, he is too cold." Later, I learned that he was the valedictorian of the entire city in the middle school entrance exam. "Caleb, Mayan City no. One high school is the best high school in Mayan City. Students in this school are either children of wealthy and powerful families, or people with excellent academic achievements. I belong to the second group. My family has no money, but my parents love me very much. My father works as a worker in a factory, and my mother stays at home to take care of the family. I want my parents to live a better life in the future, so I try my best to study and dare not be negligent for even a moment. The day I passed the entrance exam to No. 1 high school, my parents were so happy they almost set off firecrackers to celebrate. They laughed and praised me. Our little Yuna is so talented. They discussed buying me new clothes, fearing I would be looked down upon by friends at school. I smiled and told them, "No need. Lana has a lot of clothes she does not wear anymore that are still very new. I can wear her clothes. If you really want to buy for yourselves. You have not bought new clothes in a long time." My parents' eyes turned red. Emotionally, they said, "Why is our daughter so sensible? The tuition at No 1 high school is very expensive." Fortunately, I won a full scholarship, so I did not need to worry about study costs. However, in reality, No 1 high school is a gathering place for many talents. The achievements of students here are not on the same level as at the middle school I used to attend. No 1 high school divides classes by grades. I was placed in Class 3. Class 2 consists of excellent students, and Class 1 is full of geniuses among geniuses. Therefore, I still cannot understand why Caleb is in Class 3. Every time he takes an exam, he easily ranks first in the entire grade, as if doing the test casually. With those results, he should have been in Class 1. Caleb has not come to class for 3 days since that awkward encounter. He has not appeared for 3 days. During these 3 days, I felt extremely unaccustomed to it. Although I am always careful and timid when beside him, fearing I might accidentally offend the school boss, when he is not here, I feel a strange sense of emptiness, because as long as he is by my side, my thermos is always full of water. Even though Caleb is very cold and almost no one in class dares to strike up a conversation with him, I only need to frown slightly at a difficult math problem, and he will silently pick up my workbook to look at. Caleb's hands are very beautiful. Every knuckle is distinct, slender but strong. Sometimes, when he explains a lesson to me, I cannot help but stare blankly at his hands. Every time that happens, he will raise his hand and gently pat the back of my head. His cold voice will ring out, "Focus." He is very tall, but he seems to always have the habit of bending down to listen to me speak. Whenever that happens, my gaze stops on the sharp lines of his jaw. Clearly, this is a cold face, but sometimes it looks strangely gentle. He has not come to class for 3 days. I do not know if it is because he is embarrassed after our encounter that day. I thought of the scene that day when he was caught boasting to me, then became so awkward that he ran away. Thinking of this, I could not help but sigh. Surely, he feels embarrassed to the point of not wanting to be my seatmate anymore. I unconsciously blamed myself. If I had known earlier, I would not have returned to the classroom to draw the propaganda board that day. Then this would not have happened. However, reality proved that I had overthought things. On the 4th day, Caleb returned. It turned out he had gone out to participate in the national physics competition for the past 3 days and easily won the championship. I breathed a sigh of relief. As long as he is not avoiding me, it is fine. However, he returned, but my seat was changed. Lana broke her leg. When she called me to break the news, her voice was sobbing and choking uncontrollably. Una, I do not want to live anymore. I hurriedly asked. What is wrong? Do not cry anymore. Slowly tell me. Lana choked out every word. I fell while taking a shower, but I fell so hard I broke a bone. I am truly the unluckiest person in the world. Before, a bird flying past even intentionally pooped on my head. All those things I could endure. But why can I be so unlucky that as soon as I recovered from a fever, my leg broke? Clearly, I was about to return to school. Now it is great, I have to stay home again. There is so much homework, I will definitely fall behind. I worriedly asked her, has your leg been put in a cast yet? Does it still hurt? It is casted. It does not hurt anymore, but I can hardly walk. It is okay. You just come to school. I will sit with you. If anything happens, I can take care of you. But will the boss agree to let you change seats? You two have sat together for 2 years. It is fine. Student Lou has not come to class for 3 days. Tomorrow I will tell the teacher. Anyway, I do not have a seatmate right now. Lana blew her nose loudly, saying emotionally, Una, you are truly the best friend in the world. The next day, Caleb returned to school, facing an empty seat. As for me, I had moved to the other end of the classroom. When our eyes met, he said not a word. He just stared at me with gloomy eyes, deep as a bottomless abyss. If I was not mistaken, I could even see a flash of killing intent in his eyes. Sitting beside me, Lana trembled slightly and whispered, Ona, the boss's gaze makes me feel like he wants to kill me. I patted her back gently to comfort her. No, surely you are mistaken. In the following week, Lana and I remained safe and sound, but Caleb's gaze became increasingly full of resentment. Once, Lana and I went to get hot water and accidentally met Caleb. He was walking with the group of male students I had seen in the classroom the other day. Currently, he seemed to no longer want to maintain his obedient image. Everyone in the school was still amazed at why an excellent student like Caleb hung out with a group of rebellious students. What was even more surprising was that these people seemed very afraid of him. Sure enough, a boss is still a boss. Caleb walked in front, one hand in his pocket, his demeanor lazy and messy. We faced each other in the hallway. Our eyes met, and I immediately panicked and turned away, my heart beating wildly for some unknown reason. Moreover, he seemed even more handsome. Caleb's eyes darkened. Just as we were about to pass each other, he suddenly grabbed my hand. Anna, are you afraid of me? His voice was low. I was slightly stunned. Not afraid. His gaze stopped on me, looking me up and down once, then he coldly said, Not afraid. Then why are you trembling? I tried to force a smile. I just did it subconsciously. I am really not afraid of you. Caleb raised his eyebrows slightly, his tone lazy. Then why did you change seats? I was dumbfounded, then smiled foolishly and said, No. It is just because Lana broke her leg. I have to take care of her. Caleb looked at me, his tone very low. When will you move back? It turned out he wanted me to move back to sit with him. I unconsciously felt happy to a point I did not even realize myself. I seriously told him, Lana's leg has not healed yet. Caleb let go of my hand, his eyes still full of resentment. Is she that bad? Is she the only friend you have? Lana, who was nearby, heard this and intended to retort but did not dare. I whispered back, No, but I am her best friend. Caleb looked at me. In his eyes, there was only my reflection. He annoyedly ruffled his hair, glanced at Lana, his tone somewhat fierce. How much longer until your leg heals? Lana fearfully grabbed onto me, stuttering. Boss, rest assured. It will probably heal soon. Caleb sighed helplessly. He bent down slightly to look straight at me. In the depths of his eyes, there seemed to be only me left. I unconsciously asked him nervously, Student Lou, what is wrong? Caleb saw my anxiety, curled his lips into a smile, his tone very serious. Seatmate, when she recovers, you must come back. Do you hear me clearly? I looked into his eyes and nodded gently. I hear you clearly. A month later, Lana had her cast removed. Caleb personally came to move my seat back. He said not a word, just carried his cold face over to my desk. Under everyone's peculiar gaze, he silently helped me pack my books and school supplies, placing them neatly back on the old desk. I tugged lightly at his sleeve and smiled. Student Lou, thank you. Caleb awkwardly turned his head away and continued to flip through math problems that I could not understand. A long time later, he whispered, his tone a bit unnatural, It is good that you are back. The relationship between Caleb and me seemed to have changed, yet it seemed like nothing had changed. He still maintained his cold demeanor as before. It was as if the person who sat amidst his friends that day boasting about me, proudly saying how beautiful I was just a dream of mine. Because now, even if beaten to death, he would not admit it. Furthermore, now every time I look up, I can catch his eyes looking at me. But when discovered by me, he panics and turns away, the tips of his ears turning red. If others saw this situation, surely no one would believe it. We still did not talk much because most of the time he was burying his head in writing something. Once, I accidentally glanced over and discovered on the page it was written. Observation diary. Does Caleb also write a diary? I do not believe it. I never thought I would meet Caleb's parents, because his parents are the heads of a large corporation. Their status and position are extremely high. They even donated more than half of the buildings in Mian City No. 1 high school. I heard some classmates who had met Caleb's parents say that they are very strict people with immense pressure. I thought so too, because such a large corporation certainly could not be led by gentle people. I thought perhaps in this lifetime I would never have the chance to meet them. However, who would have thought they would appear at such a timely moment? These days, I could not focus on studying, because my father had been fired. He should not have been fired as he had worked in that factory for 20 years. But my family messed with people we should not have messed with. My house is located in an old alley with an antique style, very suitable for opening a business shop. A famous big boss in the neighborhood had his eyes on our house and wanted to buy it at a cheap price. That day, a pot-bellied middle-aged man drove a car and parked right in front of my house. Accompanying him was a woman wearing a fur coat. As soon as she got out of the car, she looked at my family with eyes full of contempt. Are you the owner? Why so poor and shabby? Move out immediately. We want to buy this house. You people living here are just a waste. She was the wife of that boss. My parents knew well they could not offend them, so they only dared to refuse gently. Madam, we are truly sorry. We do not know where to go if we leave here. Can you let us stay for 1 more year? When we find a new place, we will sell it to you. The middle-aged woman immediately changed her expression, becoming ferocious. I do not have time to wait for you people. Get out of here immediately. My mother frowned. You are being unreasonable. This is our house. Whether we want to sell or not is our right. There is no such thing as forcing people to sell their house. The woman sneered, her tone full of mockery. Do poor wretches like you even deserve to live here? This neighborhood will be developed by a large corporation in the future. You do not deserve to be here. I could not endure it anymore and spoke sternly. Madam, please understand clearly. This is our house. Her face darkened. You dare to call me madam? Not selling, right? Fine. Do not regret it. There will be a day when you have to beg us to buy it. Then she left in anger. Not long after, my father was fired by the factory. He had worked there for 20 years, but just because that boss was a friend of the director, with just 1 sentence, my father was immediately fired. My family lost its only source of income. My father looked significantly older in just 1 night, but when he saw me, he still tried to force a smile and patted my head. Daddy's Yuna, do not worry. Dad will think of a way. You just need to focus on studying well. Knock. A pen tapped lightly on my head. I snapped back to reality, facing Caleb's handsome face. He raised his eyebrows, resting his chin on his hand looking at me. Ona, you have been too distracted lately. I did not dare to look him in the eye, only bowing my head and pretending to read the lesson intently. No, I am not. Caleb narrowed his eyes, silently observing me, his tone certain. You are hiding something from me. I immediately denied it. No. Why would I have anything to hide from you? He did not ask any more, just silently looked at me with deep eyes. Then he gave a cold laugh, his eyes darkening further. Good if there is nothing. I thought the matter had passed. Unexpectedly, the next day he came all the way to my house. At that time, the couple came again. This time they even brought along the director who had fired my father. My mother still politely invited them in, while they remained arrogant, blatantly making things difficult. My mother yielded again and again for the sake of our livelihood, but I could only stand there helplessly, unable to do anything. Clearly, I had promised to give my parents a better life, but now I could only clench my fists to keep calm. Just when I could barely endure it any longer, my collar was suddenly pulled back by someone. I was startled and looked up. It was Caleb. His face carried a cold smile. He laughed softly. Una, you are truly capable. Daring to hide such a big matter from me. At this moment, the middle-aged woman was eating melon seeds and throwing the shells all over the floor, her tone full of ridicule. If the boss wants to buy my house, he sits on a chair drinking tea. With a triumphant look, she continued. Old Jin, if you had sold the house earlier, you would not have lost your job. I gave you a chance, but you did not know how to cherish it. You are truly a thud. Before he could finish his sentence, he was kicked by Caleb and sent flying to the ground. The entire room was dead silent. The boss shouted in shock. Who are you? The middle-aged woman, panic-stricken, ran to support her husband, screaming. You people dare to hit my husband. You are dead for sure. You are truly finished. Caleb put his hands in his pockets, his tone cold. I know you are in a hurry, but stay calm. Do not be too hasty. Less than 10 minutes later, a long line of luxury cars appeared in front of my house. As soon as the leading luxury car stopped, an elegant man and a noble woman stepped out. They both had exceptionally outstanding appearances. Before even reaching the place, the woman took off her sunglasses, her voice echoing. Who dares to bully my Yuna? Do you want to die? As she spoke, she walked up to me, stepped back a few paces, then held my hands, her eyes full of affection. Is this Yuna? Oh my God, finally I get to meet you. You are so well behaved. Auntie has read about you in that brat Caleb's observation diary. You are even more well behaved than what he described. Seeing you, Auntie's heart has melted completely. She wanted to say something more, but Caleb coughed once. Mom, do not forget the main business. Oh right. She patted her forehead, turned back to pat my shoulder, her voice full of certainty. Una, do not be afraid. Auntie will help you demand justice. Then she strode over to where my parents were standing motionless, not daring to move. The man accompanying her nodded slightly to me, his eyes incredibly friendly. I whispered to Caleb, who are they? His eyes became unnatural as he slowly replied. My parents. I widened my eyes. Caleb's parents? Why are they not like the rumors at all? Mrs. Song, Caleb's mother, excitedly held my parents' hands tightly, greeting them happily. Hello to both uncle and oops. No, hello brother and sister. How are you? My mother was still stunned, her whole body stiff, staring blankly as she replied. Hello madam. Mrs. Song patted my mother's hand, smiling radiantly. Sister, rest assured. Leave the matter here to me. I will help you solve it neatly. Saying that, she pushed my mother aside. Immediately changing her expression, she looked at the middle-aged couple with sharp eyes. You people plan to rob my Una's house. Her voice was so cold that the room temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. Just a moment ago she was laughing and talking happily with my parents, but now the aura of a powerful businesswoman was fully revealed. The pressure radiating from her made no one dare to breathe loudly. The middle-aged woman swallowed her saliva, her whole body stiff. She never expected that the chairman of the Lu Group would come to protect such a small family. If she had known earlier, given 10 guts, she would not have dared to utter a peep. Because the corporation planning to develop this neighborhood was precisely the Lu Group. Moreover, more than half of Mian City's economy lay in the hands of this group. Her husband, having just been kicked down, now had a pale and stiff face, not daring to say anything. The factory director, who had fired my father, hurriedly pushed the middle-aged couple aside, put on a fawning smile, and bowed to greet them. Chairman Lu, Mrs. Song, this is just a misunderstanding. It is completely a misunderstanding. It is not robbing a house, it is buying. They wanted to sell the house to us. Mrs. Song glanced at him, her face full of disgust, her voice scornful. Who do you think you are to speak to me? You are not worthy. You are the director who fired Una's father, right? The factory director hurriedly waved his hands, his mouth stuttering. No. Mr. Jin misunderstood. I did not fire him. Tomorrow he can return to work immediately. Mrs. Song leisurely smoothed her hair, took a stack of documents from the secretary beside her, flipped through a few pages, then said indifferently. Mr. Jin will of course go to work, but you do not need to anymore. This factory now belongs to our group. As soon as the words fell, the entire room was as silent as a sheet. She patted my father's shoulder lightly and stuffed the stack of documents into his hand, her voice cheerful as if announcing a normal matter. Mr. Jin, from tomorrow, you are the director of this factory. My father froze, completely unable to believe his ears. For so many years, his skills were the best in the factory, but because he had no connections, he was always suppressed. He had dedicated his entire life but never obtained the position he deserved. Yet now, the thing he had strived for all his life, but could not get immediately fell right in front of him, so easily it was unbelievable. The middle-aged woman was still bewildered, not understanding what was happening, when Mrs. Song calmly looked at her, her tone lazy but full of murderous intent. As for the two of you, I heard your family has a livestock farm. Tomorrow I will send an excavator to help you clear that place completely. Upon hearing this, the faces of the three people immediately turned pale. Their limbs trembled, and they collapsed onto the chairs. A second ago they were arrogantly shouting at my parents, but a second later they were so scared they dared not make a sound. The middle-aged woman intended to open her mouth to cry and beg, but a glance as cold as ice from Mrs. Song immediately made the two security guards cover her mouth and drag all three of them out. I stood frozen watching this scene, my mind not yet able to react. I looked up at Caleb, my eyes shining. Student Lu. He turned to look at me. I blinked, my voice full of admiration. Your mother is so cool. After everything was settled, my parents enthusiastically invited Mrs. Song and Mr. Liu to stay for dinner. They did not refuse, even calling to cancel all schedules for the day, happily sitting down to eat with my family. During the meal, Mrs. Song gently patted my head, her face full of love, her voice soft. Una, who named you? It is so beautiful. It sounds truly poetic. I answered seriously. My grandfather named me. He never went to school. She was astonished and asked further. Why was it your grandfather who named you? I calmly recounted the story that I had never told anyone. Because when I was born, my grandfather carried a large basket on his back, walking from the countryside to the city, bringing along the family's egg-laying hen. The distance from the countryside to the city takes more than 2 hours by car, but my grandfather walked the entire way. At that time, my family was very poor and had no phone. My grandfather did not know which hospital we were in. He arrived in the city not knowing the way either. Yet he went to every single hospital to find us. He was hunchbacked from a lifetime of labor, but he kept walking like that just to see me once. My father asked my grandfather to name me. He thought for a very long time and finally said, let's name the child Yuna, because he said I am the one and only, the most precious treasure in this world. This was the first time I told this story to someone. The room suddenly fell into silence. Mr. Liu was teary-eyed. Mrs. Song took a handkerchief to dab her tears. Oh my God, it is so touching. Then she glared at Caleb, her tone full of disdain. You are dead. Her family cherishes the girl so much. How can you be worthy of her? Caleb smiled. Recently, my school organized a mathematics competition. The person ranked first would represent the school to participate in the provincial math competition. If achieving good results, this would be a bright spot in the academic record, bringing great benefits for the future. Because he was busy participating in another competition, Caleb did not join. As for me, I silently won first place. When everyone knew the representative was me, a not-so-prominent person, they did not trust me. They said I was just lucky. Going to compete would definitely be embarrassing. It would be better to yield the opportunity to a student in Class 1 to bring glory to the school. There were so many denials that I started to doubt myself. Could it be that I was truly just lucky? But if it was just luck, then what did all those nights I stayed up late studying count for? Thud. A stack of thick books was thrown onto my desk by Caleb. He used his hand to hold the back of my neck, forcing me to face his deep eyes. His breath brushed past my hair, gentle and warm. Are you afraid? I looked at him, my voice coming out with a bit of grievance. They all say I cannot do it. Caleb slightly curled his lips. The smile was a bit arrogant, but the words spoken made me feel more reassured than ever. Do not be afraid. It is just a stupid exam. Whatever you do not know, I will teach you. Just go and grab the first place to open their eyes. He spoke very lightly, as if I would certainly be able to do it. I looked straight into his eyes for a very long time, then nodded vigorously. Okay. So I did what I am best at, studying with all my might. As for Caleb, he became my private tutor. Amidst the stressful revision, the school organized a basketball tournament to help students relieve pressure. Caleb represented my class on the court. His face already drove countless girls crazy, so when he played, the cheering almost echoed throughout the entire court. He is usually very cold. This was a rare opportunity for girls to scream and cheer for him, without fear of being glared at. I stood in the crowd holding a water bottle, obediently watching him, when his gaze briefly swept over me. The person who always maintained a distant, icy demeanor suddenly curled his lips into a wild, uninhibited smile, like a peacock showing off its most beautiful feathers. The girls around screamed even more violently. The match began. Caleb played extremely dominantly, making the opposing team almost unable to resist. I stood in the crowd, exclaiming that Caleb was truly an all-around genius. During the halftime break, many people ran up to give water to Caleb, but he refused them all. I had unscrewed the bottle cap, intending to step up and give it to him. However, before I could reach him, a team member snatched the water bottle from my hand. He panted, his face flushed. Thanks, student. You came at just the right time. I intended to say that this water bottle was not for him, but seeing his exhausted appearance, I did not have the heart to ask for it back. But just then, when I looked up, I met Caleb's gaze, a gaze full of extremely obvious resentment. Before I could explain, the match continued. In the second half, Caleb played extremely aggressively. He almost intercepted every pass, leaving the opposing team with no chance, completely crushing them. Everyone could feel the simmering anger in him. Not only the opponents but even his teammates were astonished. One person muttered, "What is wrong with Caleb? Why is he suddenly playing like he wants to eat people alive?" Another person wiped his sweat. "Who knows? He is naturally cold. No one can guess what he is thinking, and no one dares to ask. The match ended with Caleb throwing a beautiful three-pointer, ending all hope for the opposing team. I waited until the crowd dispersed before walking up to him. He wore the number 3 jersey, standing in the wind, looking even more dazzling. Student Lou, he put his hands in his pockets, his voice a bit grumpy. What, you heartless thing? Giving water to others but not to me. I squinted and smiled at him. Student Lou, lower your head a little. He narrowed his eyes guardedly, asking, you tell me to bow and I bow. I smiled even brighter. You will definitely bow. He cursed softly, then obediently lowered his head. I truly lost to you. I took a tissue and gently wiped the sweat from his forehead. Then I leaned close to his ear and spoke seriously. Student Lou, you played very well today. The final three-pointer was beautiful. You are worthy of being my seatmate. My eyes shone brightly. Caleb stood up straight in panic, the tips of his ears turning red unconsciously. Afraid he was shy, I prepared to leave. But right at that moment, Caleb grabbed the hem of my shirt. His voice was a bit unnatural. If you have praised, then praise a little more. I realized that the closer the day of the provincial math competition came, the more people gossiped behind my back. In their eyes, I was too ordinary, yet I represented the whole school. They felt I was completely undeserving. Just before the competition took place, on a Monday morning during the weekly flag-raising ceremony, Caleb stood on the stage as the top student in the grade. His deep eyes swept over the students. The schoolyard was noisy, but as soon as he stepped onto the podium to speak, all sounds disappeared. Everyone was astonished. A person who always refused to speak, famous for being cold and distant, suddenly agreed to stand on the podium today. The students all listened intently. Even the principal did not hide his satisfaction, his eyes full of expectation. Everyone's eyes focused on Caleb's every move. He tapped his finger lightly on the microphone. His deep and calm voice rang out. Today everyone is present, so I will also say a few words. I once read a sentence by Eileen Chang. Outside, the wind and rain are noisy, the mountains and hills are all today. So Yuna. He suddenly stopped. I stood in the schoolyard among hundreds of students, suddenly hearing my own name ring out from the microphone. My heart missed a beat. I looked up just as my eyes met him on the stage. The corners of Caleb's lips curled up slightly, his eyes full of confidence. No matter what others say, you just need to persist in what you believe is right. Do what you want to do. Life is very short, but it has countless important moments. I hope that in the most brilliant years of your youth, you can give your all and leave no regrets. He paused for a second, then his voice became lower, carrying a hint of a smile. As for me, does not everyone always say I am arrogant, but I will forever bow my head for you. As soon as the words ended, the schoolyard sank into absolute silence. Even the principal was amazed. The teachers behind dropped their jaws. Obviously, no one expected Caleb's speech to turn into such a public cheer. For a moment, no one spoke. Then someone in the crowd shouted loudly, "Damn it, brother Caleb is too cool." The whole schoolyard immediately exploded. Oh my God, did he just confess? Heavens, is this still the cold as ice Caleb I know? Una is the person participating in the math competition, right? If the boss trusts her so much, she is definitely not ordinary. I thought today would be a serious speech. Who would have expected the boss to turn it into a public confession? I had wondered why Caleb suddenly agreed to speak under the flag. It turned out he was a warrior for love. Oh God, I truly witnessed the boss descending to the mortal world. I stood in the middle of the schoolyard, my hand on my chest. My heart beat so fast it felt like it wanted to jump out. Noise filled the air from all four sides, but my ears seemed blocked. All I could hear was the sound of my own heart. He stood on the stage. His usually cold face now carried a gentle smile. That smile was like sunlight in the cold winter, warm and brilliant. I felt like dying. I really like him. I do not know when. It could be when he gave me the water bottle when I choked. It could be when he took my math problem and patiently explained it. It could be when he silently poured water into my thermos without saying anything. It could be when I accidentally saw the page where he wrote an observation diary. But it could also be right at this moment because his eyes were deeply engraved in my heart. Caleb, I really like you. That evening, after packing my luggage, I stood on the balcony letting the night breeze blow on my face, trying to clear my head a bit. After many hesitations, I finally pressed the call button for a number. Hello, seatmate. Caleb's voice came from the other end, carrying a hint of a smile, completely different from his usual coldness. I called out softly, Student Lou. I am here. I heard the sound of a lighter from the other end. He was probably lighting a cigarette. I always knew he smoked because there was always a faint smell of tobacco on him, but when he was with me, he never smoked. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm, then spoke clearly word by word. I have thought very carefully. I want to make an important decision. His voice was slightly hoarse, seeming to hold the cigarette between his lips, lazily asking, "Say it." I gripped the phone tightly, then decisively said every word. "If I win first place this time, I will confess to you." The other end of the line suddenly fell silent. I nervously clenched the hem of my shirt, not knowing what he was thinking. Suddenly, I heard a hiss. It seemed he had just burned himself. Immediately after, his voice rang out, trembling slightly. "Damn it," I frowned worriedly, asking, "What is wrong?" He exhaled softly, his voice going hoarse, carrying a rare hint of grievance. "It is okay. I was just too happy, so the cigarette burned my hand." I could not help but laugh. My mood also became more relaxed. "Do you trust me that much? What if I do not win first place?" Caleb chuckled, his tone incredibly firm. "Seatmate, you are the student I taught. You will definitely win first place." Hearing those words, I suddenly felt my whole body filled with energy. I do not know why, but he always has a way to make me believe I can do it. I took a deep breath, smiling radiantly. "Okay, I will bring the first place back." Caleb and I got together. I really know how to win glory. Not only did I win first place, but I also used my ability to silence all those who once looked down on me. Mrs. Song fed me a strawberry while smiling proudly. Our Yuna truly has a bright future, going to a competition for the first time, and it is a provincial one, yet she won first place straight away. "Come on, darling, eat another strawberry." I shyly opened my mouth while my mother gave me a massage and smiled gently. It is also thanks to little Lou teaching her well that my Yuna made such progress. Caleb sat nearby, occasionally smiling foolishly. This situation has lasted since the day we got together. That day, Caleb's eyes looking at me were full of emotion, as if restraining something intense. He looked at me, his tone more serious than ever. "Una, if you are with me, you will not be able to break up. I like to show off and I also like to get jealous. So, do you still want to be with me?" I looked into his eyes and nodded gently. "Caleb, I like you." At that moment, he was so overjoyed that he spun around in place, then suddenly bent down, put his arm through my legs, and lifted me up like a child. Ignoring the surprised looks of everyone around, he smiled slyly, narrowing his eyes. "Let's get married right now." Scared of the height, I panicked and clung tightly to his neck. There is no need to be in such a hurry. Since that day, Caleb started smiling foolishly countless times. Classmates who did not know the truth started spreading rumors that the school boss had studied until he went crazy. Everyone said it is just a university entrance exam, there is no need to be stressed to that level. The university entrance exam approached. That is the final hurdle for all final year students. No one sees it as an end but as the beginning of a new journey. Everyone poured their heart and soul into studying, and so did I. Caleb stayed in class until late every day to review with me, until the very last moment. As a result, I did very well. Although I did not get into Caleb's university, I was admitted to a prestigious key university. Fortunately, we were still in the same city. On the day of my university enrollment, Caleb personally drove me. He drove a flashy supercar around the campus again and again, as if afraid others would not know I was his girlfriend. If he had not been blocked by the female dormitory manager, he might have rushed straight into the dorm room to help me make my bed. Being stopped outside, his face immediately fell. What kind of damn school is this? Not letting people into the female dorm. 4 years of university passed in the blink of an eye. After graduating, we entered society and continued to pursue our own fields. A few years later, we got married at the age of 27. Caleb had firmly established himself at the highest position in his industry. The once unruly and arrogant man had now become a famous smiling tiger in the circle, but everyone feared his smile, which hid a knife. At a meeting on the top floor of the group, Caleb sat at the presiding seat, his fingers leisurely tapping on the table. His expression was lazy, but all the senior managers in the meeting room were breaking out in cold sweat. No one dared to breathe loudly. They all had experience and knew this was a sign the young master was about to get angry. Lana's husband was also sitting in the meeting room. In desperation, he secretly texted his wife for help. At that time, I was getting my nails done with Lana. Seeing her pitiful look, I understood the situation and took out my phone to call immediately. As soon as the call connected, the meeting room, which was silent as a sheet, suddenly rang with a familiar ringtone. The senior managers all breathed a sigh of relief in unison. They were too familiar with this ringtone. It was like a ray of salvation in hell. Caleb looked down at the phone screen. He was originally an extremely cold person, yet the caller name saved on his phone was Lovely Darling. He curled his lips slightly, stood up, his voice low and gentle. "Hello," I sweetly called out. "Hubby, come pick me up. I finished my nails." Caleb's eyes automatically became gentle. The terrifying aura from earlier immediately disappeared without a trace. The corners of his lips curled up. His voice was both firm and soft. Okay, stay right there. I am coming immediately. The meeting ended. I flipped through the photos from high school. My memories always stop at the time near the university entrance exam. A normal afternoon, the sun leaning towards the west, leaving the sunset shining through the window. In the quiet classroom, there was only the sound of me diligently doing homework, while Caleb silently read a book beside me. He leaned back in his chair, one hand holding the book, the other unconsciously placed on the back of my chair, his fingers occasionally tapping lightly. I stopped writing, stretched, and unconsciously poked my cheek with the tip of the pen. Caleb, I called him softly. He patiently replied, What is it? Do you know the meaning of the hibiscus flower? Before he could answer, I continued myself. It is gentle persistence. Caleb looked at me and smiled softly. I know. He gently massaged my neck, his eyes seeming to contain the warm sunset behind my back. He whispered in his heart, Caleb, my love for you is also like that hibiscus flower. No matter what tomorrow brings, I will still love you, gently and persistently. End of story. A small extra story. On the admission day of Mayan City No. 1 high school, the roadside was full of cars carrying new students. In the crowd, there were 2 tall boys who looked particularly outstanding. Brother Caleb, why did you come to high school? Didn't you already learn all the knowledge since elementary school? Caleb carried his bag on one shoulder, chewing gum, his gaze leisurely sweeping over the crowd of new students. He sneered. I just intend to come play for a few days, then casually take first place in the exam to deal with the family. The old man told me to study for the full 3 years of high school. I cannot waste my life here. I guess so. High school is as easy as eating candy for you. How can you endure studying seriously? The 2 walked and chatted, crossing the corridor right as they passed class 10-3. Caleb's footsteps suddenly stopped near the window. A petite girl was standing still, looking dazed. Caleb raised his eyebrows, preparing to ignore it. But suddenly he heard a whisper. My life is over. I drank water from someone else's thermos. The girl frowned, muttering to herself in a confused way. Just then, she looked up, facing a sweaty fat guy standing blocking the desk. The fat guy threw his backpack hard onto the inner seat. His tone was aggressive. Do you know who I am, daring to refuse me? Being my seatmate is your honor. The girl pursed her lips, her small face flushing red, but she still stood resolutely, refusing to give up the seat. The fat guy frowned, wanting to squeeze inside, but was blocked by her. She tied her hair in a bun, her round black eyes wide open. Her whole body was small and soft. Perhaps even she did not realize that at this moment, she looked like a small kitten fluffing its fur, glaring at the enemy. The fat guy wiped his sweat, looking confused. Why won't you let me in? The girl whispered, her voice soft as cotton. It is too tight. You will not fit. At this moment Caleb stood outside the door stunned. His eyes stopped on the girl motionless. In his head there was only one thought. Damn it, why is she so well behaved? So tiny, cute enough to die for. It is over. I am forced to study high school now. Thinking so, he unconsciously stepped into the class. Step by step, completely out of control. His slender hand reached out. With a thud, the backpack the fat guy placed on the chair was thrown to the ground. Caleb said coldly, I want to sit here, move. The fat guy was furious. Are you crazy? I came first. Who are you? Caleb indifferently swept his eyes over, his voice lazy but cold. What do you have an opinion? The fat guy looked closely at his face, immediately breaking out in cold sweat, stuttering. No. The fat guy fell silent, quietly hugged his backpack, and ran away. Caleb calmly sat down in the inner seat. The small girl stood beside him, hesitating for a long time, finally timidly reaching out her hand, her voice a bit tense. Hello, my name is Una. Una implies the one and only. He did not shake hands, only took out a thick physics book from his bag, maintaining his cold face, pretending to be indifferent. Caleb. The friend who went with Caleb stared blankly at the whole process, his mouth wide open. He intended to step into the class, but as soon as he set foot in the door, he was swept by a sharp look from Caleb, causing him to immediately pull his leg back. He took out his phone to text Caleb. Brother Caleb, you went into the wrong class. You are a student of class 10-1, not 10-3. Come out quickly. It is too embarrassing. Caleb replied with only 2 words, get lost. His friend continued texting. Brother Caleb, what is wrong with you? Caleb replied, his face calm. I think I'm in love. This story beautifully illustrates that true love is born from silent protection and mutual growth. Una teaches us that strength does not need to be loud. It can be the gentle persistence of a hibiscus flower, blooming through adversity. When we work hard to become our best selves, we not only change our destiny but also attract those who cherish our true worth. A lasting relationship is one where both partners bow their heads to lift each other up. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this sweet romance story, please like, share, and subscribe to Sweet Cherry Novel for more heartwarming tales. See you in the next story.